Again, one last question about the roles is who were those few key people who were involved with you in the restoration project?
Well, so before restoration, first the person who got me the
Uh-huh.
car, again a
Okay.
school friend, childhood
Okay.
friend,
Okay.
Ashish Jain.
Okay.
He's also
Okay.
a pretty
Huh.
big vintage enthusiast.
Okay. Okay.
And then before buying the car, I again asked a dear friend, Baba. His
Hmm.
name is Avni Ambuj. I don't know, आपने अम्बा सिनेमा
नहीं
का नाम सुना है? दिल्ली में एक
नहीं
अम्बा
नहीं नहीं
सिनेमा होता था पहले. So
probably
old
not.
family,
Okay. Okay.
so very close friend.
Okay.
So he also saw the car before,
Huh.
everything,
Hmm.
understood all the details and said, yeah,
Hmm.
okay, go for it.
Okay.
And then we
Okay.
finally took a decision that we should send this to Mr. S.B. Jatti.
And Mr. S.B. Jatti was referred to you by somebody?
Yeah, I mean, he was a known person
Of
in the
course. I
circle.
mean, of course.
And
Otherwise, आप देते भी क्यों उनको?
हाँ,
हाँ. Correct.
so plus some of my uncles, they were very close friends.
Okay.
So
Okay.
luckily there was a good reference from the
हाँ हाँ
industry
हाँ हाँ हाँ
and family. So that was, it's all trust. You see, in these things
Has to be.
has to be
Has to be.
100% only and only trust.
Only and only trust.
You
Correct.
cannot get these cars restored.
I'm sure, I mean, I can imagine that even though the gentleman was referred to you, but still, just to gain that courage to let go of this machine for a year and a half to somebody else.
Right, right.
तो कहीं ना
And
कहीं वो I think हाँ you rightly said trust is probably the only thing that based on which you can give
only
out these
thing.
cars.
I mean, you do whatever you want, but again, the person who does it, he should be passionate about it. That is
Correct.
also another thing.
Yeah.
Not just a professional, he has to be passionate.
हाँ.
And it's only passionate guys who would do restoration work.
And I think passionate and patient both. And not just him, but even
Yeah.
you need to be able to, for example, tell the other person that, take as much time as you want
Yeah.
and not be in a hurry कि भाई मेरे को एक साल में ही आप करके दो. You can't do it with these kind of projects. It
Yeah,
might
yeah.
take 3 years, it might take 4 years, but then I hope your son gets married soon. So, that's all I would say. Okay, so something about comparing vintage cars to modern day cars. So, what's your take on the fact that many people today they are working on things like kit cars? I'm sure you already know what kit cars are, and there are people who have like probably the body tub and the chassis of the old car, and
Right.
they replace it with the modern engine, and they don't pay that much heed to try and spend time and procure the original
Original
engine or
stuff and all
bring the
that. Yeah.
original engine back to the to running condition.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
No. I'm not in favor at all of that.
You're a purist.
I just want
Absolutely.
to, yeah,
Huh.
whatever has to be, it has to be original and in the best possible right way. Not.
Do you think there is something about these old engines which you do not get to experience in the new engines, modern engines? Honestly, I don't know about it. That's why I'm asking.
No, see, modern engines are more technologically advanced.
They're more refined and all of that. Correct.
That's the main thing. So, I mean, and you get everything which is much better than the older engines. But the older engines, the kind of sound that you get from the old engine is something we've grown up with. So that is something that you will always remember and relish. हम
Right.
बचपन में हमने निर्लाज का पिज्जा खाया है, तो हमको निर्लाज के पिज्जे का टेस्ट है.
हाँ.
You
उसके बाद और कुछ नहीं समझ में आता.
आता है, लेकिन वो टेस्ट भी है.
Understood.
So it's the same way. You whatever once you hear that sound, there's a zing.
And I think just to add to what you're saying, that it just it's like the engine tells you in back in those days, those kind, cars from that age, the engine tells you that, there's this thing called as an engine which exists. Like I exist here under the bonnet. Because in today's cars, you'll not be able to figure out even if the car is just, drives and parks next
Pass.
to you.
Correct, correct, correct.
But that's what the whole part when you start the engine and there's this vibration that the engine creates, which in current modern day cars, the focus is to reduce that.
Yeah. And electric, it's gone.
Electric, it's gone. And that time is not far away when people will completely forget about internal combustion engines, how they function.
Yeah. And once you open the bonnet, once the look of the engine is also there, which
Huh.
was, I mean, you don't see it anymore. You just
And
see a
yeah,
black sheet on top,
right.
is what you see in the new cars.
And the cars of that age, it was not even like a bonnet, जो अपने राजस्थानी में किवाड़ कहते हैं ना पूरा. It's like, I think it's a dual fold bonnet if I'm
Yeah,
not
it's a
wrong.
dual
Huh.
fold bonnet. Normally,
So
all
it was an
those.
experience in its own self.
Yeah.
It's an experience in its own self to first be careful and do that fold at the right time and then put the bonnet on top and then put it back.
Correct,
It's
correct.
quite an experience. It's quite an
Yeah.
experience. And I've always been in this dilemma as to whether or not buying or procuring a vintage car is an expense or an investment or both. So, according to your experience, what is it? I mean,
I think it's very personal.
okay,
It's a personal choice.
okay,
If you like cars and you like old cars or new cars, that's a different thing. But if you like cars and if you like vintage cars, then I don't see it as an expense only.
and do you think these cars always appreciate in value? Because I mean, I've seen a few auction videos on YouTube and stuff, and
Right.
mostly all these different vintage car brands that no longer exist, their values are much higher today. Do all the brands appreciate, or there are only a handful, few of them that appreciate in value?
Yes, there are only a few brands that would really appreciate.
Okay,
But at the
okay,
same time, again, the same point of yours, purest and original,
uh-huh.
that is, I
Okay,
mean, now you see lab grown diamonds are available, no?
uh-huh. Right.
At fraction of a cost. But the cost of a natural diamond will always be there. So it's the same with cars. If you keep it as original as possible, then there is no reason why it should depreciate. It's a piece of art.
But then, Uncle, why is it that, for example, I mean, if you have the modern day Rolls Royce,
Yeah.
let's say now you decide to buy one and retain it for the next 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Chances from what I can understand, what I can see is chances are that the way cars have appreciated from back then till now, that appreciation will no longer happen in future. What do you think about that?
Maybe for these cars which are currently
Okay,
selling,
okay,
but again, if you see paintings or if you see
right,
antiques,
right,
the
right, right,
older
right.
they are, the higher the value. So there is a possibility. I mean, we see it as a probability. There is a probability that if there is something old and if it is kept in its original form, it should fetch a certain price.
And not done too many miles on it.
I doubt if miles is a real concern.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
As
okay,
long
okay.
as it's kept well, if it's done miles, then it has to be restored in the right way. If it is restored in the right way, then it's fine. Then it's running again. It will do again the same number of miles. If it's done 100,000 earlier, it might do 100,000 more.
And coming back to the engineering part of it, do you think that engines from back then were far more durable, and chances of those engines lasting for longer were higher as compared to modern day engines.
I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it.
बिकॉज एक्चुअली मैनी पीपल दे आई मीन वो कहते हैं ना, बहुत लोग कहते हैं कि यार जो पुराने वो इंजन्स होते थे, आज भी अगर उनको मेंटेन करके चलो तो वो इंजन्स चल जाते हैं, बट करंटली जितने नए इंजन्स बन रहे हैं, because of I don't know downsizing and reduction of cost and not you know focusing on many qualitative parameters, अब वो engines की life उतनी नहीं रही है.
नहीं, ऐसा तो नहीं है भाई. I mean,
अच्छा.
you look at all the cars that are coming, Honda, Toyota, all these cars and all. I mean, the engines are doing phenomenal. I'll give you one example. We went to, which place was this? I think it was Greece. We were sitting in a taxi which had clocked 640,000 kilometers. It was a E250D. So you can imagine a
Okay.
640,000 kilometers driven car was running super. So
Wow.
it would
Okay.
be wrong to say that modern engines are less in any way.
I guess you just have to maintain it regularly
That's it.
in whatever the desired amount of
Yeah.
time is.
और पुराने इंजन तो भाई नहीं चलते थे इतने. पुराने इंजन तो हमारे फिएट एम्बेसडर या पुरानी गाड़ियां तो उनका तो इंजन ओवरऑल करना ही पड़ता था.
But 1923, uncle, it's
Yeah,
still running.
but how many kms it has done, that is also.
Actually, I didn't ask how many kms has it done.
That's a good question. I've also not checked.
Fair enough, fair enough. So another example I have of that, I was just in Japan a month ago, and the auction house I was telling you about, Bingo. वहाँ पे there was the Ferrari F40, F50 standing, and the Lambo Miura, and all these cars are standing. The Ferrari F40, if I'm not wrong, it's from back in 1992 or 93, if I'm not wrong. And the car, that particular machine that was there, it had only done 2,500 miles on the odometer. So it was practically brand new, and it was in mint condition, and that was going out. I mean, the guy was wanting to be like, it's an auction house, so the
Right.
value was about $3 million.
Wow. And which year was it? Which
1992 probably, if I'm not
92
wrong.
model.
92 or 93. 2,500 miles done, practically new,
New. Yeah.
and $2.5-3 million. So that's what got me thinking, that is it the mileage that matters, or
I'm sure mileage must be getting some points.
because
For
I
sure.
think because over the more the machine runs, I'm sure the wear and tear also happens.
Exactly.
So because of that.
But
Understood.
again, wear and tear hoga, तो you do the
Yeah.
overhauling, no? Whatever restoration needs to be done, even for the engine, it needs to be done. And if the
Right.
parts are available, then there are good people to restore the cars. And
Right. Do you have a dream project in mind
no, there's no dream project like that.
after after Kanar's shadi?
But yeah, I mean, just for old memory's sake, I would surely like to restore one ambassador,
Okay.
and if possible, a beetle.
The old, the
The older
original
one,
Beetle.
the original beetle.
Okay.
So I feel that these four will complete, my vision of a small vintage family. So
Interesting.
that's it. So you have one open car, one closed car, one ambassador, which was our old heritage, and a beetle, which has been a different. It has some I don't know.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So Beetle, I'm sure already you know about it. The fact that Beetle, the original Beetle, the design. So at one point, it moved in two directions. One was Volkswagen Beetle continued to evolve,
Yeah.
and the other direction was what you see today is the Porsche 911. So that's actually the truth. And the 911 Porsche, now you see the silhouette from sideways, the 911's original design, that windscreen and then curving back like that.
Correct.
It has evolved from Volkswagen Beetle, the original Beetle.
Oh, I didn't
That's
know that.
actually the story. At one point, the original Beetle
Oh,
continued to evolve in one direction to the new
I
Volkswagen
see.
Beetle, and the other direction, the sports car 911.
Okay.
So that's actually why even I am a huge fan of the Beetle design language.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
okay.
was close to getting one, but somehow missed it. But I'm sure there'll be many more coming.
There'll be many more,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you can probably ask Kanav if he wants to get married multiple times. So maybe that would make you buy a few more of these. I'll
I
be
would,
happy, you'll be
I
happy. I'm
would,
not sure if he'll be
no,
happy.
no, I won't be happy.
So, for a lot of these young budding car enthusiasts, Uncle, I have one question very briefly, if you can answer to the best of your knowledge. What are some of the key aspects you need to look into when you're actually putting in money to procure a vintage car in whatever condition it is,
Yeah.
assuming you'll have to restore it? So, what are those 4, 5 very important things that you need to be sure of when you're buying that kind of a machine?
Just make sure that it's as original as possible
Okay.
and it has not been tampered with.
Okay.
Because once a vehicle is tampered, then to get it back to its original shape
Okay.
is an issue or will be an issue.
But don't you think people sometimes end up hiding that fact that maybe it's tampered?
Yeah, so that's something that that's your
Knack.
knack or your conscience that you need to play with.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you're doing something, for your interest and your passion, then I don't think people will do anything wrong in that. They will want to get something which is original. And if somebody just wants to get a car, a vintage car, and has
Yeah.
no interest on whether it was original or
Uh,
not, that's a different thing. But if somebody who's restoring a vintage or wants to restore a vintage, wants to buy one, then the idea is try and see that if the parts, if they are missing, then they would be available.
Understood.
That's important.
Do you also think that the seller from whom you're buying the vehicle,
Yeah.
you would choose the seller also through a reference?
Ideally, you should, because in
Ah,
every industry there are all kinds of people,
true.
and whatever little I know of this industry, there are quite a few people who just might want to sell you something.
Exactly. Because
You,
then you would know.
so you have to make sure that at least the registration papers of the car, the owner's
Huh.
documents are original, the condition of the car, and also if it is not restored or it has some missing parts, make sure that those parts are available easily. Then it's all the more, you know, you can do it in the more relaxed way. Otherwise, there's too much pressure that where do I get this part from and this
Huh.
and that. That's what I feel. But I'm not a
Fair
big
point.
restorer,
Huh.
so
Of course, no, uncle. I mean, definitely, you're even if you're not a restorer, but considering that you've invested into two of these beautiful machines that you possess,
yeah.
I'm sure there would that these kind of things you would have definitely gone into depths as far as you could, even from
Yes,
your known community or WhatsApp groups, the people you know. I'm sure you would have asked a gazillion questions that यार इस पे भरोसा किया जा सकता है कि नहीं, can I trust this guy who's selling me the machine,
absolutely,
all of
absolutely,
those things.
absolutely.
Understood. Tell me a little bit about the current laws in Delhi about owning and driving these old classic
So
cars.
now the laws are very clear.
Okay.
Luckily, from again this automotive association in Delhi,
Uh-huh.
they've done a fabulous job. So the notification of 2021,
I see.
I think it's a July or August notification,
Okay.
which very clearly says your car has to have a legal registration,
Okay.
valid registration, and a valid insurance.
Okay. Okay.
And you drive it once a week, you drive, or even if you drive every month, there's no questions asked, there's no pollution check required. That's also
Okay.
very clearly mentioned.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So
But you can't drive it around like daily or what?
who will drive these cars daily? I doubt it. I doubt it if somebody will
Hmm.
drive these cars daily.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So majority of them will not have air conditioning.
Hmm.
So 8 months of the year, anyways, it's
Correct.
not really feasible to drive
Right.
in
Right.
that
Right.
sense.
Right. Right.
And I mean, we take out the cars
Huh.
whenever we want on a Sunday or a
Hmm.
holiday,
Hmm.
and we must ensure that the papers,
Hmm.
insurance, valid insurance is there in the car,
Hmm.
and then you're good to go. Yeah.
But then, even if you take it out, like say twice in a month, but as per the law, are you allowed to drive it normally on road, or is it for like you need to you're taking it out for like maintenance or some event only for that purpose, or what?
Though the notification clearly says that you will not make regular use of the car. So we're not making regular use of the
Oh,
car.
it just says
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. Very clear. Notification
Okay.
is very clear.
So even if you're pulling it out like once a week, that's okay.
That's okay.
Just for like an hour or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, that's
Okay.
how I interpret that notification. If somebody else is interpreting it in a different way, then
So maybe that's the reason they've left it just by saying that.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Understood. Understood. So my following question to this would be a little very interesting actually. If I put you, if I replace Nitin Gadkari, Shriman Nitin Gadkari, with you, what are those changes that you would aspire to make in the law to to promote these vintage cars to more and more of these classic cars to come back on road,
No, I
if
won't.
at all you
I
choose
wouldn't
to.
like you to replace me with him, but I think if you can organize a meeting with him, I'm sure I'll be able to convince him, and he will make a law which
Okay.
says that vintage cars, which are in original condition,
Okay.
should be allowed to be driven
Okay.
because they are a good sight to see
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
if
Hmm.
they are well
Hmm.
maintained,
Hmm. Hmm.
and nobody will drive these cars every day 100 kilometers a day.
Understood. Understood. Understood.
So it's just a matter of putting the point across to him.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
I
Hmm.
believe
Hmm.
he is
Hmm.
very flexible, and the kind of innovations he does in
Very
different
true. I
things
mean,
is
that's true about him.
this is
Yes.
this is
Correct.
another thing which he will just take it up and say, yes, this is what is there. Why have we not done this before?
That's something. So, I mean, definitely, Uncle, there are a gazillion questions which we can continue this conversation, but probably I'll keep that for another time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
thanks a lot for today.
Oh, thank
It
you
was a
so much.
pleasure
Thank
talking
you
to
so
you.
much.
It
Yeah,
was a
it
pleasure
was really
talking to you.
pleasure.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you.